M. Fletcher Brown with another artist video blog at kick96country.com. Our guest today, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, by way of the great state of Maine. I don't believe I've ever had a Maine. Are you it's called Maineites or Mainers?
Mainers.
Mainers?
Mainers.
All right, see, I'm originally from Michigan, and
Gotcha.
And I was probably halfway through my life before I realized we were called Michiganders. So,
Right.
I mean, it's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yep.
I've never had anybody from Maine. I think we may have had one or two New Englanders before, but never Maine specifically. Please welcome to Kicks 96 for the very first time, Jacob Smalley. How are you, man?
Great. Great to be here.
We appreciate you coming down here.
Absolutely.
Now, you are actually in Nashville now, though, right?
Yeah, we're in Nashville and back and forth between Nashville and Central Missouri.
Okay.
My
Oh,
wife
really?
is from Jefferson City. So.
Jefferson City. Yeah, that we're very familiar with Jefferson City, Missouri.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you a question. When I think Maine, I think two things: Stephen King
Right.
and crab.
Right. Lobster.
Lobster, crab, lobster, Maine lobster.
That's
So I won't say, and this is not a bad thing. I'm just saying I've never experienced it before. I've never associated Maine with country music.
Right.
So can you please tell me how Jacob Smalley went from a young man growing up in Maine, northern Maine,
Right.
to being a country music singer-songwriter?
Yeah. It actually kind of gave me an edge because there is no country music in Maine. to
There
speak
is
of.
really
No, I
Not-
mean
none.
it's very, very. I mean, it's a rural state, but music kind of doesn't exist there. There's some bluegrass there, and that's actually what I started in was bluegrass. I was a 5-string banjo player.
Oh, I love that. Well, yeah, you played banjo, and there was one other instrument.
Mandolin.
Mandolin. That's
Yep.
the great ones.
And then I got into bluegrass. I started doing stuff with different bluegrass bands. We got the chance to open shows for Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder.
Wow. Okay.
And Rhonda Vincent, people like that. And that just kind of led me into different types of music. We used to cover a couple of George Strait songs, but kind of bluegrassy.
Okay.
And that got me involved with George Strait's music. And one thing led to another, and I started a country band. I was kind of the only country band in the northern half of the state.
Well, then
so.
let me ask you. You say that. I mean, I know you were joking. You said music is non-existent in Maine.
Right.
That would be a terribly sad place. I know that there's music in Maine. Don't worry. I know there's music.
There is music in Maine.
But how then was getting started as a country music singer, as a country music songwriter, as a country music performer? Part of that process, part of that journey is beginning in your hometown, playing
Right.
in front of people,
Yep.
and learning how to be an artist.
Right.
How did that go for you in a place where country music really didn't have that strong a foothold? I mean, were you well received?
In the beginning, it was pretty rough. Honestly, I had no idea how to operate a band successfully or anything like that. I was a musician in bands, but I was not a band leader. And I'm actually, it's odd, going out and being a performer, but I'm a very shy person. And so being the front man all of a sudden was like, whoa, how do I do this? And because we were one of the only country bands in the northern half of the state, we still would have people, major acts would come and stuff. And I started applying to open shows for them. And, we had been a band for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And just kind of getting our feet wet, and Sawyer Brown rolls into town and needed an opener, and I'm like, oh, I'll do it, and and then I'm immediately thrown out onto that massive stage, and I'm going, oh my God, this is something else. So,
But now you've been doing this though for a while. Now we're going to talk. You took a hiatus for a bit. We'll get to that. But I mean, you started this journey, well over 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This has been a great chunk of your life now.
Yep.
When did the decision come to actually relocate and move to Nashville?
Just recently, in the last 3 years, is when we've really started getting kind of a foothold there and going out and cutting new music and recording. I've got a new band now that we are pushing everything with, and so it's pretty recent.
Okay. So I mentioned that you took a hiatus. You played mandolin, and you learned how to write songs and perform as a country artist. And then something happened that caused you to have to stop for like almost a decade or about 10 years.
Yeah.
What was that?
So I went to Nashville for the first time when I was 18, and cut an album. Came home and went back to work for my dad in his woodworking company, and I got my left hand stuck in a table router, and it shredded this finger completely and cut this finger most of the way
Oh,
off.
but you do still have. I see you still have your hand.
They're back together, but as you can see, we're shorter than we should be.
Oh.
I have no feeling in my first two fingers.
Oh wow.
So it makes fretting an instrument really, really weird, you know, because you can't tell how hard you're pressing the strings down and things like that. So I went probably 12 years without playing music at all. I just kind of gave up, and I tried to learn left-handed, could not do that. I just couldn't figure that whole thing out. So eventually a good friend of mine who was a piano player started pushing me to get out and just do some open mics, just sit down and sing with me. He's like, I'll play piano, you can sing. And I started getting back into it and realized, you know, I really love doing this. And so I started forcing myself and got back to where I could somewhat play guitar again. And one thing led to another, and his name was Bart Stover. And he's about 84 years old now, but he always used to play piano with a top hat on and long coattails and everything. I mean, he was a cool dude. But one thing led to another with him, and he actually convinced me to form a band with him as a piano player. And for the first couple of shows, you know, I didn't play guitar at all. And we finally worked up to, you know, being able to get back into it a little bit. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll say this: is like you definitely got the country chops. You know, I mean, obviously play guitar, play banjo, play mandolin. You've got a brand new single. You went back to Nashville last year, and you recorded a brand new album. Is that finished, or is it still coming?
It's finished.
Okay, and the first single of that is
What Do You Say? Yep.
So talk to us about that song.
That is just a song that I wrote. Anybody that's been either married or in a long-term relationship knows they don't always just go smoothly all the time. And it's just a kind of a country love song about, let's not just throw in the towel, let's, you know, figure this out, come back together, and you know, what do you say we keep this working? You know?
I think it's got a real country feel to it. It's got it definitely fits, you know, that, you know, idea of what we think a country is. You know?
Sure.
So I'm gonna say, growing up in Maine, you plugged right into the country mindset, you know, pretty quick, pretty easy.
Right.
So then, Jacob, now you're in Nashville. You've got the single out. You've got the album recorded. How are you finding Nashville? You and the wife. I mean, how are things in Nashville for you?
It's a crazy town. It's a wild town, you know. And when I first started going back there, you know, I hadn't been there in 17 years. And it was like, oh my God, this is just so different than it was, you know, when I went there the first time. But I love it now. I mean, it's a struggle because everybody there is doing the same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we're all barking up the same tree, essentially.
Yeah. But what a pool of talent and influence and inspiration, though. I mean, it's like there's nothing I like more than sitting in a room where I'm not in that conversation, but there's a bunch of singer-songwriters and artists that are just sitting around, just talking to one another and bouncing ideas off one another, and just really, there's like this whole language that you guys have that the rest of us don't really understand. But some of us can follow, and I can follow. It's one of those things. I was like, people say, "Well, do you speak musician?" I'm like, "No, I understand it.
I can't speak it. Right.
I can't speak it." So, but we're glad to have you, and I'm glad that, you know, you made your way back to music.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad that, you know, you found your way to do something that you really enjoy doing, that you love, and that you're actually very good at. So if there's somebody out here who's listening to you right now and they're thinking, Jacob Smalley sounds like the most interesting guy from Maine I've ever heard in my entire life, how do I find out more about him? Where do they find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can get us at the website, which is jacobsmalleymusic.com, or you can hit us up on any of the social media platforms at Jacob Smalley and Morgan County Line. Morgan County Line is my current band, so yeah.
All right, so now you know Maine is not just about Stephen King and lobsters anymore.
That's
It's
right.
now also about country music. And look for a live performance from Jacob elsewhere here on our YouTube channel. And man, we appreciate you coming down
Absolutely.
here. And
really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're 2 hours from Nashville, so you come visit us whenever you want
That's
to. All
right.
And you know, if you wanted to bring some of them Maine lobsters with you, we won't say no.
I can do that too.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. All right, we'll see you next time. Another artist video blog, Kicks96country.com.
What do you say we just give in tonight?